I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is David Harquail, CEO of Franco-Nevada. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Charlotte, it's a pleasure.
And we are here right now at the Denver Gold Forum. How's the mood feeling to you? What's your sense of how people feel about the gold market right now?
I'd say the mood is mixed. It's been a tough environment for gold. We've had almost every headwind possible with the U.S. dollar, higher interest rates, tariff barriers, and some issues at various projects. But despite that, I think gold has been staying steady at $1,200. So that gives me a lot of optimism that we'll see some better gold prices in the future.
I was watching the company presentation yesterday, and one of my takeaways was your focus on having cash on hand to invest during downturns. Where would you say we're at in the gold cycle right now?
We're closer to the bottom of the market, and so we are deploying capital because we think the best time to buy things is when you're at the low ebb of the cycle. And so we very rarely go into debt, but we will be slightly into our credit facilities at year end because we've been very active this year. We've invested over $600 million US, and we have some commitments in future years, but we're very happy with what we've been buying.
In the presentation, your oil and gas assets came up. Those were one thing that you jumped on during one of those market downturns. I know you're focused on that and, of course, on gold. Are there any other potential non-gold industries where you'd make a move like that under the right circumstances?
Gold and oil and gas are the easiest because there's so many players, both big, mid-tier, and small players. So there's lots of projects and investment opportunities. We do look at base metals and bulk commodities, but they're tougher because there's fewer opportunities in those areas, and also they just take much longer to come to market. So we've always done it as sort of a subset of our main activities. I still expect most of our deals would be gold and oil and gas.
Franco-Nevada received some news today about First Quantum's Cobra Panama project. Are you able to put that into context for investors?
It's the challenge for the industry worldwide. Is everywhere people are challenging the title or the franchise or right to operate of mining operators, and it's something that makes these projects precious. When you do have a mine, it truly is something that is very hard to replicate in the world. And so I think these are assets that are going to become much more valuable because these challenges of getting anything to market today is just getting tougher and tougher. The window's closing on most new developments, and I think there'll be a huge premium for existing assets in the future.
So that's one point that investors should be watching. What other projects do you have with upcoming catalysts in the near future that investors should keep an eye on?
Well, we're lucky because we have a great pipeline of projects. So assuming Cobra Panama comes in next year, that's one of the biggest drivers for our cash flow and revenues. But on top of that, we have the Candelaria project in Chile, which is right now going through a phase of recovering from a pit slide. But next year it comes back into full production. And then we have tremendous growth still coming from our oil and gas assets in the U.S. So we'll have 3 areas of growth coming in next year, which will carry us in growth for the next 3 to 5 years. And we are now in a position where we paid the largest dividend in the global gold industry last year, $165 million. We increased it for this year to $180 million. We can pay that for the next 35 years doing nothing. And so we have a very long duration portfolio. And what we're going to do is build up some cash so we can invest it in the next downturn.
Okay, more of a broader question as we wrap up now. Franco-Nevada is the player in the gold royalty space. I think that's fair to say. How have you changed or adapted, though, as new royalty companies enter the space?
There's always been a number of royalty companies in the space. We've been doing royalties. I've been involved in this for 31 years now. And so a lot of entrants come and go over time. I think the key thing is having the staying power to invest through multiple cycles. And I think too many people are trying to make their money too quickly. And I think what it is you need to have patience, a long-term perspective, and discipline to buy the right assets at the right time. And so I always expect there'll be competition, but our number one competition has always been the brokers with the bought deals. And so right now that equity market is very weak, and so there's more than enough things for us to buy and for our competition to buy as well. The mining industry is starved for capital.
Finally, how should investors factor a company like Franco-Nevada into their portfolio? Should they be investing alongside regular gold stocks or instead of? How should that work?
Well, if you're a gold fund, you want to have a spread of exploration, development stocks, and maybe some stalwarts of the bigger companies. But I think for most investors, they're only going to buy one or two gold stocks. Well, it's obviously Franco-Nevada. We're collecting royalties from 50 different mines. We have a pipeline of 35 other projects. So we kind of represent almost like a portfolio of the gold industry, but without the risks. Mm-hmm. So we're not exposed to capital calls or operating cash calls. If inflation happens, we're the biggest winner. If oil costs go up, we're the only gold mining company that benefits as oil prices go up. Mm-hmm. And so we don't get that cost impact on our margins. So we're in a truly blessed position, so I'm quite optimistic about our future.
That's great. That's all from me, unless you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave investors with.
Well, I think one thing is, what is Franco-Nevada? Because we're not a mining company. We collect royalties. So the best way to describe ourselves is we're the Airbnb of the mining industry. And we have interests in lots of mines, but we don't have to operate any of them ourselves.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is David Harquail at Franco-Nevada.